Բարև ձեզ հարգելի բարեկամներ, Սփյուռքի ձայնը հեռուստահանդեսը դարձյալ ձեզ հետ է։ Այսօրվա մեր հաղորդման մեջ ես ուզում եմ ձեզ ներկայացնել թուրք դաշնակահարուհի Ayse Taspinarի հետ արած մեր հարցազրույցը։ Օսմանյան կայսրությունը եւ մարդկային ինքնությունը, երաժշտական սինոպսիս, արևմուտքի եւ արևելքի խաչմերուկներում։ Այս վերնագիրն էր կրում թուրք դաշնակահարուհի Ayse Taspinarի դոկտորական թեզը, որտեղ նա անդրադառնում է Օսմանյան կայսրության ժամանակ հայ կոմպոզիտորների ստեղծագործություններին որպես համաշխարհային երաժշտության արժեքներ։ Սակայն ոչ միայն որպես դոկտորական թեզ, այլ նաեւ որպես կատարող դաշնակահարուհի, նա իր համերգներում ընդգրկում է Թուրքիայում ծնված հայ կոմպոզիտորների Կոմիտասի, Digran Tchouhadjiani, Ռոմանոս Մելիքյանի, Edgar Manasի, Գուրգեն Ալենշահի գործերը։
Thank you so much for granting us this interview, and I have a lot of questions for you actually today. And I want to begin, if you can introduce to our viewers a little bit about yourself, particularly about your musical background. How did you get involved with music? How long you've been playing? And what are your current plans involving with music?
I started to play piano when I was 5. My mom, she's a pianist, and then I was surrounded by musicians from my early ages, and I always loved classical music very much, and I love piano, so I always wanted to be a pianist, and that's why I, continued to have education around the world after that I finished my degree in Turkey. I was doing my master's degree in university, and now at the moment I'm completing my doctorate at UCLA in Los Angeles. And then I'm almost done with my dissertation, and I just finished my last DMA recital, Doctor of Musical Art recital. And then I was playing Armenians, Armenian composer who lived during the Ottoman Empire, and then some Turkish music, and I was trying to play with Armenian musicians because I discovered composers that they were living in Ottoman Empire, that they had Armenian background, they're Armenians, and then that's how I ended up doing these concerts and everything that I'm doing recently.
That's very interesting, and what I would like to know now is, were you ever been introduced to Armenian composers living in Turkey? How did this transformation or how did this interest came about?
Actually, that's what happened. I was in Turkey. I was trying to figure it out, how can I write my dissertation, the topic, and I was asking.
And if you don't mind, what is the topic of the dissertation?
Actually, it's always changing. It's not easy to give a name, but recently we end up with this name that is Identity and Ottoman Empire. West and East crossroads cultural, bridges that we have in Turkey, between the cultures. And then the name is all going to change, but the goal was to understand the identity of Ottoman Empire, how the music developed, especially classical music, Western style music in the country itself.
And now that you looked closer into the role of Armenian composers in Turkey, what has changed? What kind of opinion has formed about Armenians, especially in the turn of the century, living in Turkey, and what kind of cultural influence do you think Armenian composer had on the Ottoman Empire?
Incredible. I can almost say that it was everything, because they were the one who brought, they were giving education in the court. Edgar Manas, the composer that I was playing, he was a teacher of the Turkish princes. There are other composers like Digran Tchouhadjian, and then Komitas, definitely, he is the most important person. And it's so sad that in Turkey, no one is realizing about the importance, I hope, in the future in Turkish schools, they will teach about these composers more, and they will, give the, place that they deserve, because they really contributed to our art life in a way that it was, incredible.
And I understand that you had series of concerts And the significance of this concert was, of course, not only in your talent, which is incredible,
Thank you.
but also the collaboration with Armenian musicians. And I'm sure our audience would be very interested to know about this collaboration because, as you said, unfortunately, due to the history and political climate, these sorts of collaborations do not happen very often, and when they do, it is something of quite of significance. And maybe you can tell us a little bit in more detail how it came about, what was it about, where it took place, and what was the general purpose of it.
It started when I was in Turkey, when I founded this incredible composition of Edgar Manas' violin sonata. And my mom's friend, Armenian lady violinist, she was helping my mom to find some music that I was looking for. And this violin sonata was missing, and we really, had to look everywhere. And then this lady, Armenian lady, had the chance to have this music. And then give it to my mom, so it arrived to me through her. So I always, received some help from Armenian people that they were living in Turkey or they were living in Armenia through this, the time that I was trying to build my repertoire. And then I immediately had the idea to go to Professor Pogosyan, Moses Pogosyan at UCLA, and ask him if he can play my concert, because this is something that belongs to both of us. An Armenian composer who lived during the Ottoman Empire belongs to both sides. He was in Turkey, he was during the Ottoman Empire. He was teaching Ayse Sultan. He was incredibly important for the music world. And I wanted to share this composer with Armenians because I know that he's not famous and nobody gave him the importance that he deserved to have in musical history. So Pogosyan was very happy to see that it's a beautiful music, and he accepted to play with me. And for him it was like the first time in his life he saw a Turkish pianist, and then he had to get used to the idea that there was, there's this classical music in Turkey, people are playing, and then they are trying to contribute in art world.
And what kind of feedback or reaction did you get from audience, particularly from Armenians or Turks, if they were present at the concert, or in its aftermath?
Extremely warm, extremely happy. Nobody, was giving me a difficult time. Everybody was really open. I think the power of music is this, that you go and touch people's heart personally. Armenian people are extremely talented. As I told you before, I was giving this lecture on the contribution that they did during the Ottoman Empire. They built Armenians, Balyan family, and then they built these buildings in Istanbul. Incredible, artworks. But these buildings, we cannot move and bring somewhere, but the musical pieces can go everywhere, and then we can play everywhere, and then in Armenia, in Turkey, and touch people's heart. So it was an incredible experience because they all, received what we are trying to give them, and we were really happy to achieve our goal.
Just to pick up on your notion of music being a universal language, which I entirely agree it is, and it can certainly transcend borders and transcend cultures and bring people together. But I think it's impossible for us to avoid the historical fact, and I know that you are not a historian, but there is an ongoing conflict between Armenia and Turkey, considering Armenian genocide in the beginning of the century. And what I would be interested, or what I would be very curious, is to hear your opinion as an artist, as an individual of an art, as to not only about the matter itself, but how do you see, A, this matter being brought to resolution, and as an artist, and B, how do you see what kind of steps needs to be taken for this matter to be put to rest?
I think we need to learn history a little bit more, both sides. What I realized about this situation, that, I was able to talk to my Armenian friends and that are very nationalistic, and I was able to listen to them, understand them, and feel them. When I was reading Komitas' life, what happened to him, I was crying. I felt extremely bad for what happened, of course, and I'm not a historian person. I read some, facts, and of course I was not there. I couldn't do anything by then, but I saw that there were people between them. They were trying to help each other. So what happened, unfortunately, always people, are victim of, wrong decisions that they were taken in the history, and then they are the, people that they suffer in the end. But music is just like, is an answer to this, to this pain, to this, joy, whatever they feel. And Komitas's work is incredible, and it stays until today. And I think every Turkish person should be proud that such a composer like that was born in the country, who collect music, Turkish music, Armenian music, Kurdish music. You should be aware, and we should be all both proud of such a composer like that. I love Komitas music. I think all I can do is try to open my heart to them, and luckily enough, I was not refused until now.
As you know, the Turkish government, as of today, has denied an existence of Armenian genocide. In your opinion, as a new generation, as a people who are determined to find a solution, as a people who determined to find a dialogue, as a people who determined to set the record straight and fix the history, as you and I, two individuals speaking to each other, with determination to find justice, what do you think can be done? What kind of specific steps can be taken towards this matter?
As a person, as a musician, I can tell that we need to listen better and try to understand and feel the other's problem. Because if these people are talking about, the same thing for about 100 years, there is a problem. And they should find a solution. Like I said before, hard-headed people, very similar people, very like high honor and ego. Some, like as Hrant Dink said, sometimes you need to a little bit give a chance to look to other side, to the future a little bit, instead of being stuck in the past. Of course, past is affecting our future, but don't close the doors for us to have a better future, please. Both sides, like I'm talking to Armenians, I'm talking to Turkish politicians now. It's just like we would like to be friends, young generation. We don't want to hate each other. I don't want to be hated. Of course, my government should take a responsibility to avoid that they hate me in the world. Why I should be hated in the world? I don't want to be hated. I want to be loved.
My last question, what are the future plans?
Future plans?
For you and maybe for the collaboration. Are there any plans to play in Turkey? Are there plans to play in Armenia?
We were extremely lucky because Eurasia Foundation, I met some important people that they are trying to build a better relationship between Turkish and Armenian people. So they might help us to organize some concert with my Armenian friends in Yerevan and in Ankara, in Turkey, in Istanbul. My goal, I would like to play in Armenian churches with my Armenian musicians. And my best friend, she's a wonderful pianist. We would like to play some Armenian music, Baba Janyam, she said. And I'm like so ready to discover this music. I love Kocharyan, and I was, already drawn with Komitas and everything. So I just would like to have more musical experiences with these talented people that they are in my country. They contribute to my art, like to the art world, and by giving these great compositions. And I would like to, perform. Of course, if I can teach in the future, I would like to teach Turkish kids about Armenian composers and their contribution that they give to, like our musical world. And love them, most important thing.
Well, it was a pleasure speaking with
Yeah.
you. Thank you so much for this
You're welcome.
interview, and best of luck in your future
Thank
endeavors.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.